Imposter syndrome says we're not authors.
But here's our books.
And here's our podcast. We are two book nerds talking about our indie author experiences
To spread the love of indie publishing and help other indies not feel alone.
Thanks for joining us, and now on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Indie Book Nerds Podcast. We are your hosts, Jade Neoma
and Morgan Christensen. And we're very excited to welcome today's guest, Kalista Neith.
Hi!
Kalista is an Amazon and Barnes & Noble best-selling dark fantasy romance author. She lives in the Phoenix area with her partner and several four-legged creatures. When she's not wrapping plot and filth in gorgeous art, Kalista can typically be found gazing at Sashomaru art and playing her favorite games.
Kalista is the author of Invoking the Blood, and here's a brief introduction into that book. Faye, a mortal without magic, sneaks into the Hunter's Moon Ball, a night where vampires attend. After a run-in with the Shadow Prince, she dreams of him until one day he comes for her. Trapped and confined to his home in hell, she struggles to break free, especially the more that he acts just like the man who cherished her in her dreams. Invoking the Blood has a host of content warnings, and interested readers should check out her website for the full list. For the purposes of this podcast, we do want to warn others of racism, violence, sexually explicit themes, and mental health themes.
Well, Kalista, if you can tell us, like in your own words, what your novel is about, or all your novels, and when did the first one release?
So this is the deluxe special edition of my Invoking the Blood. This came out in 2022, and Invoking the Blood is an enemies to lovers in a dark fantasy setting with Hades, Persephone vibes, and vampires. So that's your thing, I'm your girl. Mm-hmm. And that's how I pitch it to people at Barnes & Noble.
Yes. Awesome. No, it sounds so sick, and yeah, it sounds like right up my alley. I need to dabble more into the dark fantasy, like Romantasy and stuff.
Yes, I'm down. I've heard I'm a good gateway drug for it because like it's the elements are dark, but the romance is like diet dark. So he's not real disrespectful,
Gotcha.
But I have the next one I'm writing. He's real disrespectful.
That sounds awesome. When did that one release?
So Invoking the Blood came out in August of 22. The second book in the series, A Trial of Lace and Bone, that came out in July of 23. And then I have like an extra credit smutthology is what I call it. And it's 12 one-shots. That's basically my Patreon. They would vote on the couple they wanted and like a theme of what they wanted them to do. And then I would write up a one-shot for them that kind of fit into the story somewhere. So it's all canon, and I tell you like where it fits in the story. So like if it's like this is between chapter 63 and 64, this is before Invoking, this is after Lace and Bone. Like it tells you where exactly it goes, so you can read them with. So there's times where like a character will leave, like you see side characters go, and like he'll go rail his wife, and then you get to see it on the paper on Whispers in the Dark.
I love the word smutthology so much.
Yeah, I actually put it on the top. It is a companion smutthology for the Chaos and Darkness universe.
And it's so cool that you include your readers into like the writing and stuff and the extras and everything. Well, what inspired your book, Invoking the Blood?
Oh, Lord. Okay, so I'm going to age myself because I'm an old bitch. So way back in the day when I was like 13, 14, there was a show called Forever Night that was a vampire like cop show. And there was the MMC, like that they're following him and it's in like real time, right? So and when he got turned, his maker like fell in love with his sister and wanted to turn his sister too. And he was like, no, you can't have my sister because you're going to like kill her and make her vampire. And I don't want that for her. So he offers up like, when I fall in love, you can have my girl and you're going to leave my sister alone. And his maker's like, okay, fine, we'll do that then. And that bargain, I don't know, it resonated with my little gothic heart at 14, and I just like kept that with me forever. And that's why, like, if you read Invoking, like that's kind of a little spoilery thing. That shit happens. So expect it in Invoking the Blood when you're reading it.
I love how our whatever happened to us in our teens, it just never really goes away as writers. We're just so like easily impressionable. It's just like how you can remember song lyrics, but you can't remember anything you actually learned in school. I feel like it's the same with all of the media that I interacted with, like books and like TV shows and anime and all those things. And I'm like, and it sits with you, and then you're writing and you're like, it's coming out of me again. I remember.
Right? It's like, I remember this thing. It's like, so you're like this little moldy clay, and everything that touched you that like meant something just comes out later.
Yeah, absolutely. You just like leave that impression on everything else. Well, to pivot slightly, I know that you told us that something that's really important to you is addressing systemic racism. How do you address this in your book, and what did you want your readers to see about this?
So I think just as a whole, like for authors in general, or anyone who like does anything where it's going to be consumed by like the masses, I think it's really important to address systemic racism because people don't think it's real. They think it's so. A lot of people that think that systemic racism isn't a thing anymore are people who are like in these extreme positions of privilege where just because they don't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. So I think it's important to have that in your books. And the way I do that, and the way that I take race out of it so that people can understand that it's still there. If like for us, we're all authors, anybody can write a book, right? Because that's what everyone says. We have a level ground, and this is all fair, and everything is even, and it's not. So okay, so we'll take book writing for example. Anybody can write a book. You just got to put in time. You write the book, but you don't know how to do the edits. You don't know what the 3 stages of edits are. You don't know how to get like your copyright. You don't know how to format your book. You don't know how to get a cover artist. You don't know how to deal with Ingram Spark and their jackass ways. Like you don't know how to do any of that. Your well of knowledge on book writing is so small and dry that your knowledge base coming in new will differ very differently from my well of knowledge that I've collected over the years I've been doing this. Whereas my will of knowledge will differ so greatly from a white man who's generationally wealthy. Their resources and will of knowledge is going to be so different from what I have and from like anyone else who's BIPOC just in general, because everything is geared to assist like the white. And that's just unfortunately how it is. And so every little piece that you can change, I think it plants seeds, because no one wants to openly come out and be like, hey, yo, you're racist. Because it takes a lot to look internally and see it in yourself, because a lot of it's internalized. Like a lot of it we just do to ourselves because that's how we were raised. So to look inside yourself and to see that it's a very difficult thing to do. So I try to, like how you kind of like feeding your dog medicine, like you put it in like peanut butter or something, like give them a treat and then they take their medicine, they don't know. So like when they read my books, it's not gonna be anything groundbreaking. They'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to see the world differently. But they're gonna remember that Faye was treated like shit and all the other Venarians were too. And they might not understand that money and magic can be interchanged in my books. Like if the magic that's in Invoking the Blood is money in our real world, like if you exchange it, it's a straight across. Like Rune is an old white man that is rich, and that's how it is. So they won't understand that, but their subconscious will, and it'll plant like seeds. And if we have enough seeds that get planted, then maybe we can like have a kinder future that will bloom. Hopefully, that's what I hope that happens with it.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because one of the reasons that I chose indie publishing in the first place was because I knew that publishing is primarily white, and it's been very slow to diversify. They've received a lot of backlash over the last, I would say mostly the last 4 years since 2020. They've definitely really received a lot of criticism for not diversifying, but then again, have really been slow to make any changes in the publishing world. And if you consider the fact that 80% of the publishing world is white women, you understand how that ends up leading to a difference in ability to get your book out there, especially as a person of color, because there are certain stories that perhaps it's not necessarily like conscious racism. Like maybe they're not saying, well, I don't want this book because this author's Asian or they're writing Asian stories. It could be something as simple as, I don't really connect with this story because I don't understand the background and the culture to it. So for that reason alone, I'm just not interested. It's not for me. And then if every person they come across feels the same, that they can't relate to this culture, they can't relate to this way of thinking, then those books may never get pushed out of there. And so that's why I totally agree that the more that we focus on bringing up these issues, the more that we can actually make some good changes and positive changes, because it's not about necessarily making there be less books by white people. Obviously not. The point is to give people of color the equal chance to be in the same spaces and to also have their voices heard and to not be turned away simply because people just don't understand or are not interested in expanding their worldview.
And I love the way you say they're not part of the culture, because there's a difference between having DNA and being part of the culture. Like I'm partially white. I have no idea what it's like to be white. Like I wasn't raised by my white side of the family. I was raised by the Asian side of my family. So like you could take it ancestry.com. You could be 2% Chinese, but I can tell you're not gonna know what it's like to like work in your grandma's Chinese restaurant. You're not gonna know what it's like to be fucking peeling shrimp on Sunday because you have a dinner happening on Monday, or like sitting around the table with all of your family like making the dumplings. You're not gonna know what any of that feels like because you weren't there. Like you're not part of the culture. So there's things that people need to like be, I guess, willing to digest, I guess, for lack of better words. Because if I just ever read my culture, I would read no books. And most of the people that read fantasy, I mean, like that's not your culture anyway. And how do you relate to that? You just relate to her because the cover has a white girl on it and you're a white girl and you think that's you. So you don't want to like insert yourself into a book where you see like an Asian girl on the cover because I'm not going to read that. I'm not Asian. And then you just like roll past it. So I think a lot of that has to do with it too, where they understanding that we need to be the change that we want to see as like consumers in the field. Because like if we don't care and we don't change, like everyone just keeps buying like Sarah J. Maas. There's nothing wrong with like Asriel, he's amazing, but like if everyone just buys that, and there is no other fairy books that ever get bought, it's the same deal. Like you're kind of pigeonholing this one thing that you like consume, and that's all you're ever going to consume. Where you can like have an array of diet. So like I'm in a position of privilege where like I'm like I said, I'm old, so I can buy like whatever book I feel like. So when I go to Barnes Noble to do my signings, I walk the floor and I look for anything that looks Asian, like anything. They can be remotely Asian. I'll pick it up and be like, I'm trusting you. I think you're Asian. You better be Asian. So I will buy their book to support their book, to have like another sale for it, to try to move the needle. So like there's a ton of my stuff that is like Asian bought, because that's a change I want to see in it. Because when I was coming up, there was no, but like if we were lucky, we were in the kitchen. If we were really really lucky, we didn't die. And then like if I wanted to see something like about Asians, I had to read like the Joy Luck Club, but that was my family, and I didn't want to read that. I wanted something where like I was the princess, or I was the chosen one, that kind of thing. And so that's what I try to give to like people as for the younger bees, is what I try to say. So like I'll have readers like come up and see Faye and be like, "Oh, is that you?" I'm like, "No." So I give them the spiel about like when I was coming up, there was no Asian MMCs, and I'm writing for the younger me, so they can see themselves in a book, and they can be the main character, and they can be like worthy of love and magic and fate and all that stuff. And they're not kitchen help and meant to die. They can actually be there. It's okay.
Yes, yes, I love it. And to go back to your point where you were talking about like, well, you didn't experience it. So I'm also half white, but no one looks at me and says that's a white woman. Obviously, the way that I'm treated by other people is always like Asian first. So like within the first couple seconds of meeting me, people will be like, "What kind of Asian are you? Or can you tell me more about this?" And while that's not necessarily always like offensive, sometimes it is well-meaning and they just are genuinely interested and want to get to know you better. Sometimes it can be sort of a superficial, like, this is how I view you. And so I really love that you are making this intentional and conscious effort towards every little girl just like me and you that looked at all these books and said, I wish I could see myself on the cover of at least one. And now hopefully see us on the cover of many, 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 many different types of books over across the world. But switching back to your book, can you tell us what made you choose the elements that you did? For example, why did you choose vampires and a tie that's binding their lives?
Yes. So, like, I'm a sickly creature. So mortality is always like closer to me than I am ever comfortable with. I'm like, go the fuck away. But it's like that friend that never leaves. It keeps talking. So, like, mortality is always real close to me. So, like, immortality sounds great, and drinking like the bloody enemies, I'm down with for that life. So, like, vampire, sign me up. I'm good. So that's why vampire will always be like in my wheelhouse. So it'll always be something vampiric. So, like, the new one I'm writing, Soul Obsession, like, he's not a vampire per se, but he drinks soul, so he's still consuming something to live. So like that, I still will always have some kind of vampiric touch, and I'll probably always have like forced proximity, because I like the idea of like being kidnapped and then just having the world burn down for you, that kind of deal. And then I like that, I think, as we said before, like the things that have affected us, things that we like always end up in our books. It's like, I like snakes. If you read Trailblaze and Bone, there's snakes everywhere in that fucking book. They have like, I like fate. I believe in fate. So, and I don't believe in it to a point where it's like you just roll over to the circumstance that's like given to you. So Dimitri, who is the soul drinker, he kidnaps his it's going to be his girl, but it's not his girl yet. So he kidnaps his girl Astrid, and she's a soul weaver, so she worships fate. So that's her whole ass religion. So he's like, I kidnapped you, this is your fate, you should be good with this, you should be happy. And she's like, no, I'm destined for something beyond you, and you're something I have to traverse in my path. Fate is there, and you're just in the way, yo. So they fight about it. So that's I knocked my table. So yeah, that's more of my view of like fate and how it works. Not like you have just a predisposition of things, and then these things are going to happen to you, and that's just, you have no control over it.
I love that so much. Gosh, you're making me really want to read these books like right now, because they sound so cool. And I'm like, Soul Weaver, okay, what does that mean? Now I'm getting interested.
So she can stitch souls into the body. So I have my Faye are immortal, but they're like laughably fragile. So like they're mortal if their soul isn't stitched. So like if you stab them in the heart, they bleed out, they'll die. But if their soul is stitched, they'll bleed out, they'll be unconscious, they'll regenerate, and then they'll wake up. But she can also like put it into body parts. So she can just like put your soul in your head and cut your head off, and then like your body will be gone, like it was never there, and she just has your head forever. So like she can do things like that. So
that's so
sick.
unique. It's definitely a really really unique premise. I think that sounds so cool.
Yeah, so she's a menace. They're supposed to be healers, and she's in the dungeon just like torturing people.
Yes. Well, and it echoes, you should always write what you want to read and be excited about what you're writing. And
Yes.
it's like it. I mean, just your excitement about the books makes us want to read it too.
Oh, so I have a lot of new authors. Like you were talking about how write what you love. So I have a lot of new authors
Yeah.
that'll come to me and be like, I need like, what do I write about? What do I write to market? Do I do this? Do I do that? I'm like, just write about what's in your soul, like what you like. Because when you boil it down, we all try to be like individual and unique snowflakes, right? But if you boil it all down, there's literally like 14 different people. So if I'm a 7 and you're a 7 and you're a 7 and you're a 13, so all the sevens are like the same thing. So if I have like a white-haired shadow daddy, all the sevens are gonna be like, "Yo, this is my thing." So like, just write to what resonates with you, and your people will find you. So just let it just let it be organic, and just they'll do it. I promise.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, and speaking of things that make me excited, for this next question, how do you address the patriarchy in your upcoming release, A Soul Obsession?
So we talked about Astrid a little bit, how she's like my little fucking psycho. So like in the I wanted to incorporate because I always want to put like something Asian in there. Like I'm Chinese, so I always like try to stuff something Chinese in there. So Genghis Khan, he used his daughters to like marry other clans like on his borders, and then he would put the new husbands on the front line and try to kill them, right? So then the daughter would take over their little clan and then bring it into like the fold into the dynasty, right? So I was like, that's a cool concept. It's kind of not cool that you're using your daughters like that, but that's I mean that's cool. So I used that to where in the it's they're called oh, what are they called la la la. So I took the word oracle and I like mixed it up and I made Clore. So in Clore, that's her kingdom. They worship fate there mostly, and they have like a high percentage of soul weavers there. So there are people that stitch a soul. So the typical soul weaver, like it lasts for like a day, so they have to kind of keep redoing it. So they do it for like the soldiers before they go to war, that kind of thing. Astrid shit lasts for like a couple weeks. Like her stuff is like off the chain. Like no one's ever seen this shit before. So she's like, why am I a healer? This is stupid. So she goes to like torture people instead. So like she in the first chapter she cuts off this guy's nuts and then like takes his soul away from them. So he has no nuts anymore. So it's gonna heal like he had none. And he's like, and she tells him to go tell at Sterling, which is like the torture dude, what he wants to know. I'm gonna come back for your dick after I'm done with dinner. And so that's her. She's a badass. So so I have her wanting to because I needed that family to make her a slit patriarchy's throat. I needed that culture that I've created to not appreciate her. So I have it to where like it's more the Chinese style, like the old school Chinese style, where like the daughters are more to be seen, not heard. Like you like shut up, you get married, you do what your husband says, and you just be quiet about it. And the boys are like the shining stars, right? So the boys are her cousins are the ones allowed to like go on campaigns with her dad, the king, right, and go like widening their borders and whatnot. So she's like all pissed off about it, but she like deep down she just wants like she wants daddy's approval, right? Because that's what every like broken girl wants. So she has this plan that she's gonna get betrothed. She knows that. Like she understands that this is the way things work, and she's gonna marry somebody. And instead of like bringing them to heal under like her father's control, she wants to use them to raise this other country that she hates because they have wings and she just hates them. She thinks that these are like animal attributes that should never be on a person. This is just an atrocity, and she's gonna like burn them off the face of the planet. So she hates them. So that's called Ladivian. So that's the kingdom that her fiance, that's who her father sells her to because he promises like a third of his army, and they worship conquest, not fate, conquest. So he's like, yeah, this is give me a third of the army and you'll go there and then you'll give me the other 2/3 and it'll be fine. So she gets married to that dude, and what happens is, and this is all like in the very first few chapters, during her like wedding ceremony, because she doesn't want to get married to this dude, so she's like, I'm just gonna kill him, and then I'm gonna take over the thing, and then I'm gonna raise her like her home, and she's gonna take over everything. This is what her plan is. So she's all pissed off about it because she was going to use whoever like she got married to destroy Ladivian, but because her father is like marrying her to Ladivian, she's gonna use all those winged psychos to just like obliterate her dad's kingdom and then take that over. So, but plot twist, what happens is the people who worship conquest, they're not trying to marry nobody and give like a third of their army to nothing. So he comes down there with his soul assassin, which is a soul drinker who's Dimitri, and just wipes out her court. So he eats everybody. And so it's like it's have you seen what is it called? Oh my god. It was on Sci-Fi. She was like a succubus and she could drink souls. So like she would like open her mouth and like you would see like essences come out of people and like just she would drink them. I think it was called Lost Girls is what it was called. So if you look that up, that's where I got the ideal for soul drinkers, because she was a succubus and she could just like it would like be this colorful thing in your chest and she would like suck the life out of you. I thought that was awesome, and that like I had that like 12 years ago. That also was a thing that like did an impression on me. So he drinks her whole family, like her whole ass, everything is dead. But she's psycho, so she's not afraid of him. She's trying to fight him, and her because she's not scared. Her soul doesn't taste gross. Like when they're scared, I made their soul taste like rotting meat. Like it's just rot. It's gross. Like he doesn't like it at all. So he's eating people and he has to, and it's like just disgusting. But she's crazy and she wants to kill him. So she tastes amazing. She tastes like fiery, sweet honey. Like he's like, this is the greatest shit ever. So he takes her as a war prize, and that's where the story happens. So like he takes her from his king, and so this psychotic princess and this other psychotic soul assassin are their love story is going across, and that's how that starts. And so she gets like the people who worship what is called conquest, in Ladivian, the ones with the wings, they don't separate like the men and women as much as they do in like the oracle place. So she starts to like get feelings for him because he doesn't like just dismiss her because she's a girl, and when she tries to kill him he thinks it's cute and like that kind of thing. So like he doesn't dismiss her. So that's how we're gonna like rip apart the patriarchy, and then maybe they'll get a kingdom or two along the way.
Awesome. No, it sounds awesome. And she gets to learn like just a different way of thinking and a different way of the gender roles, right?
Yeah. So he introduces her to like, so that's why she starts falling for him, because he doesn't just dismiss her because she's a woman, and he has like there's other women there. And so there's a girl with it's called pieball on what is called on deer, like where their coat is like patched with white. So I have a girl because their wings are specific color, like I think they're dark green to gray. So she has like the white patches on her wings. So the other people like don't want anything to do with her because like her wings are garbage, so they don't want to like touch her. But she can use fire, so she's a metallurgy, so she makes really good weapons, and no one will like talk to her because her wings are fucked up. And but Dimitri does, because he is also an outcast and psychotic. So they like she learns over the course of the story that while he is evil and he is like morally gray, he's not in the ways that offend her, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's like, but he's sweet to me kind of thing. And he has a cat, so all my dark romance girlies think they can save him.
I mean, a cat man is a green flag, I have to say.
Right? And the cat's name is Grey Malkin. Anyway.
Oh.
So because of Macbeth. So
well, of course. Awesome. Well, I'm all sounds awesome, especially since my book is all about, swapping the gender roles where the men are seen and not heard, and the women are more the prize. Thanks. It's really cool to hear you guys.
I need to put them up here.
Oh yes. I'll send it over to you.
I'll buy it, bitch.
Please give us more, because it's so good to hear about your excitement about your books. What was your favorite scene or dialogue to write?
Oh my god, so I love banter, like with the snarky banter, just like it gives me life. I love it so much. So there's a scene in Invoking the Blood. So there's a bunch of scenes in Soul Session, but that's coming out. So we'll go to Invoking the Blood because you can already read that one. So Rune's kidnapped her, right? So she's being held hostage, and she wants to know why she's there. And he won't tell her shit. Like he's not gonna tell her like what exactly he's doing. So she's like, "You don't get challenged much, do you?" And he looks at her and he's like, "It would seem you're making up for my many years." And I was just dying. And the way Corbin says it with a Russian accent and the aloof. I love the banter. I love it so much.
That's so cute. I love that just in that one little bit that you gave us, you can already tell so much about like their relationship with each other, that he's like, "You're making up for it, don't worry, like whatever I missed out on, you're gonna bring to me." Well, to contrast that, what was the most difficult scene or dialogue to write?
Oh my god. Okay, so I have a gap year, it looks like, in my writing schedule, because when I wrote A Travel Lace Moan, that bitch hurt me. Like that paid me. I had to crack my soul, like my ribcage open and dump my soul in it like an egg. So I have Faye change a lot in A Travel Lace Moan. Like she goes from I don't want to call her naive, but she's very idealistic. She thinks that we can run a court, we can have the Inarians, and we can do this without bloodshed, and we can have our like universal health care, and we can make everybody equal without any bloodshed. This will be fine, right? So she's very, like, to me, she's naive. She's real hard to write too. Like oh my god. But so that's a whole other ass story. But making her change so much to be from like this very idealistic, like stars in her eyes, like I can change this and this is all I can do this great, to what she has to do at the end, where she's just like demolishing things. Making her change that much, the way I originally did it, my editor sent it back to me and she was like, you need to hurt this bitch because you're making her do this. Like she's doing a 180, so you need to give her a soul wound. And I was like, fuck my life. Okay. So like I looked at the characters because I had to kill somebody. So yeah, trigger warning. There's a character dies, and so yeah, so I had to kill somebody. So I'm looking at the characters. And I'm like, okay, I need this one. I need this one. I can't kill them. They're the MMC. So like the ones where I was left with, I was like, fuck, this is gonna be awful. So I wrote it and it was horrible. Like some people find it cathartic to write that kind of stuff. I don't. I can't. Like I had a panel in Romantasy Con where somebody just brought up cancer and I was in tears. It was horrible. I was like, I'm trying to hold my shit together. I'm sorry. And then they brought it up again. I was like, yo. So like writing that was the like when you read Traveling Simone, you'll see where like when she dies, you'll see it. But I try to look at it in a good way, where like I made 1,000 people mourn her, like 1,000 people have attended her funeral. So like I try to look at it that way.
No, that's you're gonna make me cry because I'm an automatic crier. Well, tell us more because I'm assuming this is probably what you were just mentioning. What character gave you the most trouble as an author?
Oh my god, so Faye, the character everybody loves. Faye gives me most trouble because I am not that nice person. If I had as much power as she did, I would just like wipe the plane clean. I would take out everybody and like I would it would be done. It will be over. It will be 2 chapters. It'll be her getting her power and her killing all of the Darkbloods that stood against her. And that will be it. It will be the end of the book. It'll be done.
I love that. Yeah, I think writing a character that doesn't exactly like align with how you are, because for me, I'm like more timid, but if you like push me, then I'll just like get like really upset. Whereas I'm writing a character in one of my books right now where she's just all the time ready to go. Like she's ready to fight. She doesn't care. Like if you want to fight her for whatever reason, she's like, all right, gloves off, let's do it then. And so writing her is like kind of difficult. So I can see how like you're like, well, she would just kill everybody and that would be, whereas I would be the one where I'm like, this character needs to just kill everybody off. And I'm like, well, maybe there's a way we could make it work.
Yeah, it's so hard when it's like the polar opposite of your personality. Mm-hmm. It is so difficult. I'm like, oh my god, bitch, can we just fix this? So I have to like it's hard to like take yourself out of your like out of the mindset that you're used to and putting into like a totally different one. Because I have a really easy time writing villains, like the bad person in Trailblaze and Bone. Like I wrote her so easy. She was so easy. It was, oh my god. But like trying to write Faye, struggle with like not wanting to ditch her like her humble beginnings for like wealth and power. I'm like, that's the dream. What are you doing? That's like the invitation when they like the vampires invited the girl over and she was like, oh, I don't want to be a vampire. I'm like, bitch, that's the life. How dare you?
Please do it.
Right? I'm like, how dare you? And then you killed them? Oh my god, I hate you.
Stop it now.
Right?
Well, we know that you're passionate about BIPOC representation and uplifting the voices of others. Can you tell us about your journey as a BIPOC author and how you've addressed these topics as an author?
Yes. So I've been very fortunate, and I'm also I know a lot of authors are introverted, and I have learned in my life because I'm introverted at heart, but I've learned to like masquerade as an extrovert. So like after this, I'm gonna go crawl in a hole and die for a couple hours. But
Same.
so I've learned to like be extroverted and be out and how to like put myself in these places to where I've like got a foothold, like in Barnes Noble. I got invited to a Polycon. Like I have like these shows that I go to where a lot of other smaller BIPOC authors, especially because the algorithm hates us. Like it doesn't show us to anybody. Mm-hmm. I've come to the understanding I will never go viral ever. But it's if you watch like Buffy, where Spike is talking to Buffy about all the Slayers he killed, and he's like, we just need one of them to have a good day for you to be dead. Just one. There's like 100,000 million vampires. Just one. Have a good day, and then you're gone, bitch. So like that's how I kind of look at if I can get other people to do videos for me, because I know I'm never gonna go viral. But like if I can get somebody else to to do it who is like on the algorithm, that would work for me. And I'm like, yes, go please. But so I positioned myself in like a lot of like in-person events rather than the algorithm, because the algorithm hates me. And I want to be able to take my like BIPOC friends with me. Like I want to be able to widen my platform and to take them along too and be like, hey, yo, hopefully it'll translate into sales and like more exposure. It ultimately depends upon your product, right? Like if you're just slapping stuff together and like throwing it up, nothing's gonna come of that. But like if you're actually putting heart into it, then I think you will have a lot to show for it. So I want to make I'm in the process of actually making an art card right now. We're gonna use Astrid because she's a baddie. I was gonna say Kalista's BIPOC baddies. It's gonna have a QR code that will link to a page on my website that's just there. So I actually hired a PA to run that page because I've been trying to do it for a year and I just have too much stuff on my plate. So I hired somebody to do it for me. So we're gonna be reopening the BIPOC baddies Google form. So if you're like an author, what is it called, a voice actor, editor, like a sensitivity reader, whatever it is in the book field, like readers, I can't list like 100,000 readers, but like if you're an ARC reader, that kind of thing, we can. So if you have any spot in like the book industry part, not the community, but the industry where it's like part of getting the books out, then I want to highlight you and spot you. So we already have we have a few up there. I think I have like 15 or something. And then I'll just grow the list. And as we go out, because everybody likes the art, everybody wants free art. So I'll be like, hey, yo, this is free. So it'll have like little QR code. They'll be like, what the fuck is this? And they'll click it. And then it'll take them to all of our listings of everybody. And I'm not on there. Like, it's my website, but I'm not on the BIPOC baddies. Like, it is listed as like the authors are first, of course, because I think they need the most help. and then like I have voice actors and then editors. And then after that, it goes down from there. But I want that to be something that I can bring and spotlight with to like the events I go to, because a lot of my income and a lot of what I do is the in-person stuff, and I feel like I'm just screaming to the void on the TikToky because people look like us. We ain't never gonna be like anywhere on TikTok unless like we're showing boobs or something. And it's like it's so wild because it's a lot of people forget that like book talk is it's not just community, it's a commodity. It's something that this company is using to make money off of, because they do sales, they do advertising, do all the stuff, right? So the people who are buying this commodity are middle-aged white women. They're the biggest buyer of any commodity, pretty much. Like almost 90% of the commodities that we're gonna have out there, they are middle-aged white women, and those are the ones who have the money, those are the ones that are bored, those ones that have like the time to go consume things. So that's who they're gonna pander to, and it's just unfortunately business. So until we make enough of a change as consumers to where we're also a cut of the pie, they're not going to care about like these kind of books that I buy and put on display and carry around with me and send art cards out for.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I've seen some, even through traditional publishing, I've seen some really good like Chinese fantasy stories coming out. I've seen there's a couple Korean ones too, which is really new. I'm Korean myself, and so like seeing like specifically like where they're like it's not just generic Asian and you put you pick which one. It's really interesting to see it get very specific. So like Chinese, Japanese, and Korean fantasy, and I'm hoping for more Southeast Asian fantasies to start coming up. But what's interesting is when you go online and you look them up on Goodreads, and even if you read the book and you really loved it and if you really connected with it, I feel like you'll go on there and you're going to see that it has like an average 3-star rating, which I think is because unfortunately a lot of people are viewing it from the lens of like how they view every other like Western type of fantasy, and so they're not understanding that it's like, especially I'm going to say specifically Chinese fantasy, what I've noticed is that a lot of people don't really relate to perhaps like the writing style. And I'm like, well, it's because you're not understanding like the culture and the language, and that it's how people have two different personalities depending on what language they're speaking. I feel like no matter what, this like comes into the writing of the book. And so it's just not what we're used to, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. And oftentimes it's really, really good. So I think you're right that the more that we show publishing that these are the books that we want to read and these are the voices that we want to uplift, and we just want, an equal place at the table with everybody else, the more I think people will get used to like getting outside of like what they're used to in their comfort zone, and might be more open to reading about different types of the cultures and different ethnical backgrounds and things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's until like money talks, right? So until enough of us can come to table and purchase these books. And I think I know what you're talking about, because it was like I have it here somewhere. I haven't put it up yet, but like is it this one? They have, I forget. So I have a ton of them, right? Mm-hmm. So I know there was one that was specifically Korean. It said it was a retelling of a Korean folklore, and I was like, give me this.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited.
I didn't even read the back.
Have an Asian
I was like,
cover,
give me this shit.
Asian cover, buy.
Yeah, anything with like and having actual like the I don't want to call them uniforms, but like the ceremonial dress and stuff that they have that's like accurate. I'm like, buy. It's instant buy. Do you know what it's about? I don't care. It's why I don't care.
I don't care. I'm buying it. It's pretty. Look at it.
Right?
Perfect for my shelves.
Right?
Awesome. Well, Callista, what is your writing journey? Like, what brought you to the writer you are today?
So I always wanted to write. Like when I've had so the story Invoking the Blood I've had since I was 14. Like I've had those characters since I was like 12. So I was a military brat. We moved around a lot. So like we moved every year. So I didn't really care. After a few years, I didn't really care about making friends because I was just gonna lose them after. Because this is before the internet. This is before like Instagram. This is in like the 1900s. So like this was I'm old. Like we had telephones and then we weren't allowed to use phone because we were kids. So it was ridiculous. So instead of like trying to make friends with people, I just kind of isolated to myself and I made up these stories. I made up like these imaginary friends in my head. And then they like took on their own life and then they like they weren't like interacting with me, so they're like separated. So I was like watching their lives. And that was more entertaining to me than like just trying to find friends I was gonna lose in 6 months when we moved again. So and I teased my mom, I'm like, yo, that's how you raise serial killers. What were you doing to us? But anyway, that's something. But so I made these characters up. So I've had them for a very, very long time. So they've like grown up with me. So the story has been there. Like I told you, the when I watched the Forever Night about the bargain they made, I was like, this is amazing. And then I made my characters do it. And so like it's matured and come with me as like I've gotten older. But the heart of it has always been the same. The characters are the same. The way they act has always been the same. So I've learned like how to better articulate them, I guess, for lack of better words. So I always want to write and be like artsy and do the whole art thing. And my mom was like, they're called starving artists for a reason, right? So I was a good girl. I turned 18. I went to college. I got a corporate job. So now I'm at a point where I'm established enough where I can have tattoos and like color my hair and be at my job and like look at them like, what are you gonna do? And so I have a lot of free time because I've established myself at this point in my life. So I'm doing what I was passionate about in the beginning. So I started pursuing writing, and so I did Invoking the Blood, and that's how I got here.
Yeah, I love that you kind of always wanted to be a writer. I think that it's interesting how many people will, even if they go on to get like a big girl job and they do like the thing you're supposed to do and they go to college, like there's always this tiny little pull somewhere in us that's like, but you also want to write books, but you really want to write about these characters.
Yes. 100%. Like I've had this story. Like I've had iterations of it. My headphones are trying to fall off my head. Yeah. So I've had iterations of it forever. Like I've had some kind of draft that was just never finished, just with me the whole time. Like I've been married to the Warhorse for 20 years. He's seen it. Like all like he's been scared. So like as writers, like when you're trying to like brainstorm, you have like the 5x7 cards or the whatever the index cards. You're like writing the scenes. You have it like all over the floor around you, and you look like a crazy person trying to like do a whole. I don't know. It looks like a murder scene, and you have like all these like things with the string and the like you're a conspiracy theorist. So every time he would come home and see that, he would just like go back out to the garage and have a beer. Like I'm not even. You just when you're done with that, you put it away. I'll come in the house. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not trying to be in that.
Yeah, well, tell us more about like your writing process. Like, do you have to be sitting at a certain place? Do you listen to music when you write? What's your routine?
So I need isolation. I'm one of those cycles where they talk about if you get me in this quiet room for like 3 hours, we'll give you $1 million and whatever. Like I could live in that room. So I need isolation. I need to be left alone. I need to be not interrupted, like even by the cat. So I shut the door and the Warhorse knows like not to come in the door when that's unless it's an emergency and just like leave me be. I will play music, but it's typically one song on repeat and it kind of fades into the background. It's just so I have some kind of like white noise almost. So it can't be a song that I like too much because then I'll actually be listening to it. But it can't be a song I hate because then I'll also be listening to it. So it'll be like an average song just kind of fades to the background. And then when I write, I always write the culture and the society first. So like I need to know where they come from so that I can understand how they're gonna react and how they're gonna like do when I put them in these like horrible situations. So like these characters I've had since I was 14, I didn't have to do that with because I already did all that. I've like carried it for decades. But with the new one with Soul Obsession, I had to actually sit down and be like, okay, so we're gonna have these people who worship fate. What does that look like? Like, how do they go about their lives? Do they just like, oh no, we're invaded, how terrible, and then they just like roll over and do whatever, and that's not feasible, right? So because they have to have their own kingdom, so I need to make them like worship fate in a specific way, and I also put I made a three-faced mother like for Hecate, so just like as a nod. So she's the I have because I like snakes, so I have the egg, the serpent, and the shed, which is like birth, life, and like death. So I have that all in there too. So you make this whole thing, and I need to have all of that before I can make the character. And even when I make the character, so I'll have their whole like the society, and then I make the character. I need the character from like cradle to like wherever they are. Ooh, I keep hitting this fucking mic. So I have them from like cradle to wherever they are, and then like after how they're gonna react during the story. And then I need to kind of know like where they're going after, because I need them to be able to breathe like before, during, and after the page, so that they feel like a real like fleshed out person, rather than just like, oh, he's psycho because he's psycho and that's what we write about in dark romance. Because that doesn't work. He needs to you need to make him crazy for a reason. Like he needs to be justified in what he's doing. Like anytime you have someone who's like evil or like morally gray, they're the hero in their own story. You're just reading the wrong book. So you need to also read their books so you understand their motivation and what they're doing. So I'm very involved in like my world building and what I have. And like a lot of it won't go into the story at all. Like 90% of it, no one will ever know, but it's in my head and I know, and I can make my characters and the background and like because the background society, that's its own character too. So I can make that act accordingly as to like what needs to happen. And so I need all that, and then I'm a plotter, so I can't just write to write. Like I don't know how pantsers do it. Like my what is it called? My critique partner's a pantser, and I don't know how she does it, because like I can't. I literally like I can just like go and write ideas that I have, but like if I'm actually writing a story, I need to know like, okay, this is the arc that we're gonna do. This is where we're gonna take it. This is what's gonna happen. So I need like a beginning, middle, end, and then I need to have like a structure of how I'm gonna write to get there. She just free writes. I don't know. I'm like, it scares me sometimes.
Yeah, I love
So
how
I'm very
much,
structured.
yeah, I love how much effort and planning goes into your characters. I think a lot of authors are definitely going to relate to the 90% of the world building is not going to end up in the book, but it's important for me to do. And it's funny because I'm a bit of a plantser, so I definitely plan something out ahead of time. But man, my characters never listen to me. As much as like I want to stick to the plot that I've made, it's my characters are like, but then what if this happens? And so I just kind of go with the flow, even though I do have like a general idea, especially with like their arc, like the character arc. I do have that like plotted out ahead of time. Like I ask myself at least like, what is your character going to do, and how are they going to change across? Like, because I feel like as a plantster, that's the bare minimum you have to do, is like you have to know what your character is going to experience and how they're going to react to it. But then for me, after that, all bets are off. Like the ways in which those changes come about are always going to be different.
Yes, and I like so I'm a hardcore plotter, but like I also discover things as I'm writing. So it's not, and like all of it is not just like written out. So they'll do things that surprise me along the way, but like the end is still the like we're still getting there. They might like take a little detour, but it's still like this is where we're going.
I'm
Because I
glad to
will
know.
beat them into submission.
I'm glad to know that even if your characters try and fit your plan, that they still are rebellious. It's good to know it's not just the
Yeah.
planters who are experiencing the off-rooted random excerpts and things that they want to say and things that they want to do. I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, no, it's not just you. They do it all the time. And sometimes if it's too much of like, because it's like a bug in your ear, right? Because they're like, to me, they're alive. They're their own thing. And so I'm just like taking an incident report. So there's sometimes where like they want to do something so badly and I can't get away from it to make them come back. I'll just write it real quick and then I'll throw it into like the chaos piles, what I call it. I have like a folder with just the nonsense in it. And then I'll just throw it in there, and then they're satisfied that they did that, and then I make them go back into the thing.
I love that so much. Well, tell us, what are your publishing plans for the future and what's ahead for your series?
So I initially I put a lot of pressure on myself to like I need to get a book out every year. I need to like do this and do that, and so I've taken a lot of the pressure off. So I'm writing as I write, and with the signing schedules that I have and my corporate job, because I'm a sickly creature, I need my medical. I'm writing as it comes out, so I'm not pushing myself as hard to get like a book out every year. Because writing Lace and Bone, that took me out. I couldn't write for like probably 4 months after that, and I was just dead. So so I'm more patient with myself, and I give myself more rest too. So what is it called? I need to get writing on the final draft of Soul Obsession. So typically when I write, I'll do like my first draft, which I hate. Like drafting is like the most evil thing in the whole world to me. Like I hate drafting. I like editing, which is weird because I hear most people hate editing. So I like the polish and making it pretty and like making it all nice. I hate when I sit there with the draft and be like, oh my god, why is this word so fucking ugly, and trying to make it perfect on the first go, which never happens. So that's like I've been a lot more patient with myself. So Soul Obsession is going to come out in probably next summer, because I'm planning to have it done in April, like completely finished and polished. But because I've divorced Ingram, I can't just like slap it on Ingram and have it out. So I need to send it over to Say, which is in China. They need a month to publish it, then a month to send it to me. And then I need to like get it out the boxes and then take it to my bookstores and stuff. So at that point, when I have them in hand, then I'll give the rubbish copy to Ingram. So they'll have like a normal book. And then my distributor people will have the pretty book. and that's how I'm gonna be writing my publishing. So I'm gonna have like a little bit of a gap because I need to do the publishing and whatnot. So when this thing is getting published or being printed in China and being sent back to me, I'm gonna be writing something else in the meantime. I'm just gonna go chill for the 2 months. So as we move forward, it should be like a book maybe every like a year and a quarter or something around that area. So I try it within a year, but it depends upon the story and how it works out and like what's happening in life. So I've learned to give myself more grace than trying to satiate the masses because readers are voracious. They will consume a product that takes you months and months and months to do in a day. And then they'll ask you for more the next day and you're like, I don't have any, yo. I have friends here, read their books.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like super important to give yourself that grace and that rest. I too work full time and writing is my part-time job essentially. And there are like seasons within my day job that really counteract the writing and the publishing. So I have to like not do any writing or any sort of thing during like a couple of months throughout the year, and then you have to kind of like adjust to that in your publishing schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I feel that in
can
my soul. Like, and
totally
the
feel
last
that.
week of the
Yeah.
month, just don't even talk to me because I'm not there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. So well, what made you choose indie publishing?
So I chose indie publishing because I wanted to have control over the topics I want to talk about, like systemic racism. I wanted an Asian FMC. I don't want somebody to fight me over cover art or like having her in the book because I don't want her whitewashed. Like, so there are specific things that were like non-starters for me. Like it's this or it's nothing. Like I'm gonna have it this way or it's not gonna go. And I mean, in the future, if I do have something where they'll allow me to, like, I want to make sure that that's represented, and it's as long as with the publisher that the BIPOC representation is important to them, I would be open to it. But I need to keep my job because I need the medical because it's just what it is. I also have a pension, so I'm kind of it's golden handcuffs. I'm stuck here, so I need to be able to keep my job. They can't like send me all over the place to do signings because that's just it's. I can do 4 events a year, and that's all I can do because that's all the vacation I have. So I did indie publishing because I had issues that I wanted to address and were important to me, and I want to make sure that they were highlighted the way I wanted to. Because a lot of this, like I said, I was an artist before I was an author, so a lot of this is my books are art. They're pieces of art for me, and I'm very specific on my vision of what I want and how I want it. Like all my books, everything from like the formatting to the word choice to all of it, your cover, all of it I do. Like I am the last say in everything and I do adjustments to all of it. Even when I get my artists that send me stuff, I draw over their shit and I send it back and we ping pong it till it's right. And that's just and before like I don't just spring it on them. I tell them like, hey yo, do you want to do some art for me? But I'm like psychotic and my psychosis is I'm gonna draw over your stuff and send it back to you. I'll tip the shit out of you. I'm gonna pay you, but like this is what we're gonna work with. They're like, if they say okay, then we get hired. If they say like, nah, fam, you're crazy, and I'm like, okay, I'll find somebody else.
Hey, at least you're upfront about it. I would have to be too, because I can get kind of. I worked on like it was like a video game project, and I had to leave because they were going into a different, I guess, idea than what was originally planned that I liked a lot, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Right?
Um, so
I
I
feel that
feel
in my
the
soul. I'm like,
control. Yeah.
absolutely not.
Well, and then, our favorite question of the podcast is, what does indie publishing mean to you?
I think it's freedom. It's the ability to express yourself the way that you want to, and to have your product put out the way that you want and that you expect. So it's your representation of your art form. So I see it a lot as freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we agree with you because there's just things that you can do in indie publishing that you just won't get through traditional publishing, that you just won't be able to have that level of control. And I also think that something that's very interesting for people to consider is when your book starts to gain traction and when you've got a couple books out, you might want to make special editions. You might want to do all the cool things, years down the line with this book, and you don't want to have handed over all the rights to it to somebody who's not going to make the same decisions as you. Now, we can tell with your books, obviously, you've got so many very, very pretty editions, and that is obviously an option and doable even as an indie author. So I think some people think, well, I'm not going to be able to have the special editions. You can, and it might take, time to get to the point where you're able to financially afford those types of things. But I do think it's an interesting thing to consider is like whether or not you want that kind of control in the future.
Yeah, and it's some people, they hate the control, like they don't want it. They just want to write the book and they want to let somebody else do all of it. And that's totally fine and valid. And there are people like me that want control over everything. Like this is my vision, this is my baby, and I want it specifically the way I want it. And then I think a lot of things also that I've learned over time, just out of like trial by fire, is we can do as indies, we can do everything a trad publisher can do. Like I can have the sprayed edges, I can have inlaid vellum, I can have like I can make black page editions, I can have a book box, like I can make anything that trad can do, I can do. I will go to the store, I will go to Barnes Noble, and I'll see a pretty book with like this is foiling in like UV spot, right? Now I will take a video of it and I will send it to my girl Maggie. I'm like, hey yo, what is this? Can we do this? And she's like, yeah, this is such and such and such and such, and then we did it. So like I have books coming in for what is it called? Whispers in the Dark on November 15th is when they're supposed to be scheduled to get here. But they're like a pretty like metallic paper rather than like the regular paper, so it looks like there's like the sheen to it and it's like more metallic-y, it gives it more depth. And then we did like spot UV for the roses, so like they kind of flicker when you turn the page up and down. So like they can do like really cool stuff, and it's not perfect the first time. Like she was trying to figure out how to do it. Like first it was like rainbow bright kind of like prism kind of shit, and I was like, absolutely not. Rune does not have rainbow hair. And then she did another thing, and then the third try was she found silver paper to make it go on. So I mean, anything that we find in trad here, like any of the book boxes, you can do by yourself. And Kickstarter is another like exponentially amazing way for indie authors to get a foothold. And like it takes effort. You can't just like slap Kickstarter up and be like, okay, go find it. It's just like publishing a book. You can't just be like, I published a book, okay, go read it. You have to market it. You have to do your thing about it. So this Kickstarter same way, but that's a really good way to be able to crowdfund your special editions too.
Yeah. I love that you definitely have like all of that experience. It's nice for maybe some indie authors who are just getting their first book out or just starting to write their first book to see that there's definitely growth that you can have, and you can definitely do the same things that a trad publisher can do. So Kalista, you've done a few book events. What advice do you have for indies who are looking to sign up for book events too?
Oh my God. So first off, okay, we're just story time. So when I was first making my book, because she's a thick bitch. So when I first made it, I was trying to compare my prices to like the publishers. Like I was like, I'd make the $16.99, but if I'm giving Barnes Noble a 55% discount, which also you don't have to, we'll get back to that. But so if you're giving Barnes Noble a 55% discount, I'm making like 15 cents. But it's okay because exposure, and I'll be in Barnes Noble, right? And my editor and my critique partner tackled me. My husband, the Warhorse, couldn't do it because I wouldn't listen to him. But they tackled me like, bitch, you need to make a living wage. So you need to make at least $3 off of your books, period. And so like raising the prices, it was like to make $3 at 55% cut that Barnes Noble would take, it was like I had to be $23.99 to make $3 a book. And I did it, and I was like, I'm gonna get laughed out of this like Barnes Noble. Like no one's gonna buy this book for $23.99. This is fucking stupid. Like books are $16.99. I am way more than that. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna die. This is just, I'm not gonna sell anything. So I did what they said, but I was all freaked out. And I went over there and I was terrified, but like I did the thing, like you put your mask on because that's what you do, right? So I super glued my mask to my face, and then I did my selling. And they gave me 15 books at first, which I thought was cool, like 1.5. And I was like, oh, they just gave me a bunch of books. This is like a pile. I'm scared. So I sold them. We sold them by like noon. And people didn't give a fuck about how much my book costs, like whatsoever. They hardly ever ask. The people that do ask, and it's valid, they can, that's fine. And I have ebooks. If my books are too expensive, I have the ebooks that you can catch and whatnot. So, and I do giveaways. So I mean, there's other ways. You can ARC read for me. There are ways to get my book for free. So don't be afraid of pricing. Like people don't give a fuck. They don't. And like I've had people even with the pretty editions, like these bitches. They don't ask how much they are. They just look at it like, I want 2 of those, because when you put them together, they touch hands. I have to show you. When you put them together, they touch hands.
Oh my God.
So they're like, we want this set. I'm like, it's the same book. They're like, we don't care. I'm like, okay, it's $130. And they're like, okay, fine. And they like scan the card, and it's not a big deal. So don't be afraid to say your price with your whole ass chest. Like, don't be scared. And so when you're going to these bookstores, like I would say just like put yourself out there. Just do it and put yourself out there. It takes time to generate a following. So like if you're going to what is it called, to like conventions, like if you're going to like Books, Gowns, and Crowns, which is an awesome convention, if you're going to Romantasy, if you're going to a Polycon, whatever like con you're going to, bring some kind of special edition, preferably something like get a sprayed edge person to do sprayed edges. You can run a sprayed edge for $65 really easy. So like just make sure you have something special that's only there, or have a signing exclusive. Make a special edition that's a signing exclusive that's only when you go to cons and sign, because that's what they're looking for. They want that special magic thing that nobody else can have, because that's human nature. They're like, hey, look what I got that you don't got. That's what people do, right? So you want to have something pretty that you can sell them. Like, don't bring your books they can just grab off of Amazon, because they're not gonna care. They're just gonna look at your table and they're gonna walk by, unfortunately. Have a piece of art that you yourself would walk across a convention for. Like, what would, because everyone's taste is different. Like, this is kind of what I talked about earlier. Like, if you boil it down, there's only like 14 different types of people. So whatever you like if it's like, if you want like derpy art, or if you want like realistic art, or if you want anime, like whatever your art style that you love that's in your heart, like what would you walk across the convention for? Like, if I saw Sesshomaru across the convention, I would walk past every single fucking bookstore, and I would like go there and see what that was about first. So like whatever would make your heart sing and make you walk across people, get that, so people will come to you, because your people will flock to you at that point. And just put yourself out there. You're gonna get like declined. It's not, and they won't even answer you. So that was like really shocking to me when you like submit to these like conventions, and if you don't hear nothing, it's a no, and that's just, I guess they're too busy just to say sorry you didn't make the cut or whatever, or I don't know what the deal is, but like it was very shocking to me that they didn't tell you that you weren't coming. So I was like, I don't know, they fucking ghosted me. They didn't talk to me. I was mad. And then if you find a Barnes and Noble, if you have the availability to, getting a Barnes and Noble that is close to a college, depending upon your genre. Like I do dark romance, so like that's like my demographic. I'm looking for the goth girlies and like the college girlies typically. So if you can get next to your demographic, that's gonna be your gold mine. And you need to stay there for a while. Like I've been at my Barnes & Noble for, it's like pushing 2.5 years now. This is almost the first full year of me signing there at least twice a month. And then I'm there just for the whole holiday time. And the more you're there at your Barnes & Nobles, the more you establish yourself, people will know and talk in the community that, oh, this is where you get Kalista's books. And then it's signed, she gives you an art print and this, that, and the other. And they talk, and they will go to that specific Barnes & Nobles to buy your shit, rather than like Amazon. Because when you get the book from Amazon, it's going to be damaged. It's going to have like, it's not signed, and there's no like bonus art stuff with it. And people like free shit. So like put your business card in there, put your bookmark in there, put your art print in there, and then it's like, sign them all up and leave it there. Even if you're not comfortable doing a full ass signing yet, just go in there and sign your books and then run away. And just
Oh,
so that would be like, just do it, is what I would tell people.
Yes. Oh, and that's like good author business, but like good business advice in general, or like sales, I suppose, advice in general. I remember I worked at a 3D printing store, and that was back when 3D printers they were brand new. No one knew what they were, and they were like 2,500 or something. And the advice was to not put your wallet in other people's pockets. Like, you don't know what people are willing to pay for, especially with these books. I mean, people will drop like $300 on these like nice fairy loot like boxes of all the books and stuff. So, and just for like the really pretty ones. So yeah, that's really good.
100%. And like advice. And I'm a cover hoe, so like if I see a pretty thing, like if you have a dude with white hair, you had me hooked. Like if he's on the cover, I'm pretty much done. Like every time I have like my neighbors in the cons, I'll go walking through and I'll look for like the white haired hotties, cause I'm pan, so like I'll do the guy or the girl, doesn't matter. So I'm like look for the white hair hotties. I don't care what they are. So I'll just buy them all up, and I don't know what they're about. They could be YA for all I know. They could be no spice in at all, but like they're on the cover and they're hot.
Yep. Whatever makes your heart sing, as you said. That's perfect. Right? So, Kalista, what is your best piece of advice for people who want to self-publish that you wish you had known ahead of time?
Ooh, okay, so I have a few. So, let the first draft be ugly. Like, I named mine Hot Ass Raccoon Dumpster Fire. So, like, just let it be ugly. Understand that the polish and the beauty and the prose and the beautiful language and all the things that are so pretty and beautiful. And, like, how did you ever think of this? That's all after 10 lines of editing. Like you've gone over that bitch like 10 times, and that's like layering. So that's all the frosting and decorations you can put on like on a wedding cake. You're not gonna get your eggs and your milk and your flour and try to like put frosting on it, because that's your first draft. You need to make the cake first. So do that. So let your first draft be ugly. Mine are hideous. Like they had the most simple language. They're just disgusting. They're awful. I just have to get them out, and then I go back and then I do editing, which I love, and I make it pretty. I like to make it pretty. Also, when you're like, understand when you finish, like, so when you finish first book, when you get the second book, you're gonna be like at 130,000 words. It's gonna look amazing on your little Word document, and then you're gonna go to a new book and it's gonna say 0 words, And you're gonna type for like, it feels like hours. It's gonna say 123 words. And so you just have to power through it. It's like, it's real annoying.
Oh my
And then
god.
I had other ones written down, so I'm just gonna like, where did I say? Oh, imposter syndrome never goes away, like ever. I still have horrible imposter syndrome. Like I sell my shit all over the place. I make a full ass living off of this, and I still, every time I walk into anywhere, there's a little voice in the back of my head that's like, you know, you're a fraud, right? No one's gonna buy nothing. They're gonna find out what you are. And I just want to crawl on my table and die. And so that's every time. You just put your brave face on and you do your sales, and that's just, you just have to go with it and like just kick imposter syndrome in the face. But I know it's hard, but it never goes away. You just have to learn to kind of live with it. It's like that ugly sibling that you have that just you can't get rid of. So people tell you when you first start writing, you gotta write to your ideal reader. And her name is Brenda and she has 2 kids. And no bitch, her name is not Brenda. She doesn't have. There's your ideal reader is the person who likes your tropes. You're not looking for a specific person. You're looking for a name. You're looking for a person. Like for me, I'm looking for it. Do you like enemies to lovers? Do you like vampires? Do you like forced proximity? You're my ideal reader. That's an ideal reader. Okay, I'm done with my tangent now.
Yeah, I think it's really hard with imposter syndrome because it feels like the right thing to do. It feels like you're supposed to be questioning yourself almost. Like it almost feels like compulsively the right decision to make because you're like, well, I have to make sure it's good if other people are about to read it and other people are about to buy it. Wouldn't I want to make sure that it's good? But I think on the other hand that you're right that it's not going to go away and you have to learn to combat it and still put yourself out there. I think you're always going to get judged for putting your art out there. That's a piece of what it is, but we can't let that stop us or deter us from still continuing to put our stuff out there. And I think you're right that we'll find our ideal reader as long as one, we tell them what we're writing. So we need to get good at knowing our own books and knowing like what it is about them that other people want to read. That was a huge difficulty for me. I think it's something that I'm still learning to overcome is because I don't know what people want to read about my book specifically. But I think one way that I've been looking at it is, well, what are the parts of it that would have appealed to me? And so I'm just starting to like go back through and pick out those pieces and try to use them more in my marketing. So you've given us a lot of really, really great advice today. To wrap up, why don't you tell us about any future goals or upcoming releases that you want to mention before we sign off today?
So upcoming goals, I would love foreign rights. So we have a thing we're doing right now. We're working on that. So hopefully, foreign rights takes a long time. So probably in like a year, hopefully, maybe. And then just continuing to have my imaginary friends go talk to other people. That's my goal, is to have this out and have it like going in and touching other people. And it makes me happy when like I have other people who like love Vashki and they like will bring me carrots and stuff like that. So I have like being able to interact with my readers is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, if anybody watching wants to read some of your books, remind everybody where they can buy and what your social media handles are.
My TikTok is Kalista_Neith_author, I believe. And then my Instagram is Kalista Neith, just one word altogether. And I have KalistaNeith.com. It's just my name.com, which has like all of the things on it. I also go to Tempe Marketplace in Phoenix, Arizona, in like the Phoenix metro area. That is my home store. They get all of my cool things. So if you want like your Barnes & Noble discount on my stuff, I always have it there. If you want something specific, just let me know. Just hit me up on Instagram and be like, yo, bring me one of these things. And then I just bring them into the store and then you buy them through Barnes & Noble kind of deal. Because they're my home. My laughing joke with them is like, you loved me when I was Magikarp, now I'm Gyarados and I'm still here.
Awesome.
But that's where you find me online.
Thank you so much to Kalista Neith for being here for us for an amazing interview. Next week, you'll be able to catch Atlas Creed, author of Armitage, here on the Indie Book Nerds podcast.